She had run deep into the dark and frightening forest to escape the evil queen's plans. Branches tugged at Snow White. Mysterious creatures stared at her from the darkness. Snow White was very afraid. She was all alone and could... Snow White! Snow White cried when she stumbled further into the forest, but soon she heard birds singing, and Snow White decided to sing too. Singing made her feel much better. Snow White. As Snow White sang, all the forest animals and birds became her friends. They even led her to a small cottage in the woods where she might... Snow White. Snow White looked around. Why, there's 7 little chairs, Snow White. Snow White. Must be 7 little children, and from the looks of this table, 7 untidy little children. What peculiar Snow White. What peculiar appetites, and look, cobwebs everywhere. Snow White thought that no mother would allow her children to be so messy. Maybe they have no mother. Maybe they're orphans. That's too bad. I know, we'll clean the house and surprise them, and then maybe they'll let me stay. Snow White had stopped thinking about her own troubles in no time, and she and her animal friends had swept, dusted, and tidied up the entire cottage. Exhausted, Snow White fell across the row of little beds upstairs and was instantly fast asleep. When the dwarfs came home, they didn't know what to think. There's something's in there, they said. I wonder if a goblin had visited their home. Oh no. The dwarfs saw the delicious-looking dinner that Snow White had prepared. It's a witch's brew, they said. Snow White woke up and stretched, and she saw 7 dwarfs and was more surprised than they had been. Oh, why, you're little men, she asked. How do you do? Snow White said. How do you do what? One of the dwarfs replied. Snow White explained who she was and why she was asleep in their beds. The dwarfs knew that Snow White needed a safe place to hide from the queen. After talking things over, the dwarfs decided to let her stay. The cottage in the woods transformed. Every night the dwarfs would sing and play their instruments for Snow White. The dwarfs were glad to have Snow White live with them. Because of her great kindness, the dwarfs soon come to love Snow White. Snow White was so happy to have found the dwarfs. When she first ran off into the woods, she had cried as anyone would, but she didn't give up, and she found a new home. In time, Snow White left the dwarfs to marry the prince, but she often thought about... That's a horsey. They're dancing, yeah. They're dancing. Who's that? They're dancing. Who's that? Who's that? Snow White? Who's this? Giddy up, it's horsey. It's giddy up. There's your book. Who's the book about? Lily, who's that book about?
What do we say when the queen comes?
I can't see you, I'm too cool.
Oh my.
Let's see. Who's that?